Welcome to the Conquer Risk podcast. I'm Christopher Norton, here today with Jeff Goodnow to talk about OCIOs. Jeff, when you and Manish first started talking about the OCIO idea, I was like, okay, Outsourced Chief Investment Officer, that makes sense. But when I stopped and actually thought about it, I was like, now, wait a minute, how would that work exactly? What would that look like within an advisor's business? So I thought, why not get on the podcast so I can ask you, what would that look like and how would it work in an advisor's business?
What a brilliant idea.
I thought so, yeah.
Absolutely. No, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I think it's good because, again, this is something that, even 3 or 4 years ago, OCIOs have existed for decades. But until 3 or 4 years ago, it wasn't down to the level of the individual advisor. And that just wasn't something that was talked about or said or done, frankly.
Precisely, yeah. The idea of using outside managers, I think, is obviously something everybody is familiar with, and it's how Potomac was born. But this idea of at the advisor level and OCIO, let's just start at the beginning. What does that look like, and how would that relationship even begin?
Yeah, as far as the relationship, it's really, you could find some outsourced OCIOs. There are some people that do that just as a business, but oftentimes the multi-strategist TAMP that you are using as an advisor would have some sort of a capability like that. Now, it has different forms, and sometimes there's an additional cost. In fact, often there's an additional cost if you want that custom service.
Sure. Right. All right, so if that's sort of the beginning, then what? I'll just ask the blunt question: what do they do actually?
Well, essentially, there's a couple of things that an OCIO would do. One, just the first level, the due diligence process, right? Have an actual process for due diligence to not just find managers, but to understand what managers are reasonable, what they do, how they do it, all those things. Because it's that broad-based expertise and understanding before you ever get to returns that makes the difference in then understanding the second piece of what they do, which is putting them together. Offering that capability to make a curated portfolio of multiple strategists and their models to say, okay, this is a good one for this particular scenario. Or here's a bank of 3 or 4 or 5 models put together that are combinations of those that make sense for your business. And that's a huge, huge deal.
Yeah, it is. And I want to dig in there a little bit deeper. So walk me through how that actually works. Is it a one-time? Let me look at your book and here's some recommendations. Do you drill down by client and make recommendations for individual situations? Do you do it by scenario? Where's the balance there between enough support and too much?
Well, thank you for answering your own question. There are actually all of the above. So, an example, okay. I know of one TAMP that does. This is a multi-strategist TAMP that has an OCIO that, for a small fee, will create custom model combinations for you, the individual advisor, right? But without paying that fee, that at least I don't believe there's a fee, they, instead of just having their big breadth of all these different strategists and models, have created some that we say, hey, these are, here are 5, I'll just make up a number. Here are 5 good models that we think have value. Right, so you can just use those, and you and the client are going to pay whatever the normal process is, whether or not you had gone to them. But it's sort of a shortcut. It's like I use this term, the advisor cliff notes, and so that may be an option. But the reality is, your best partner is going to be there when you need them, and that may be both on the front end, where you say, okay, I'm new to the TAMP.
That's an excellent
and I have
point.
no idea what all these managers are. And I'm dealing with some folks like that right now that have a lot more options than they used to. And say, okay, for my business, I need some help trying to figure out who I should work with and what models, to really make sense and what combinations. But then on an ongoing basis, hey, I've got a new prospect. This is different than what I normally do. I just don't think that's going to fit.
Right.
Can you help me? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, that's what it boils down to. To me, that's the difference between being an entity with a product and being a partner.
Right.
So,
Right.
and it's all over the board, of course. Different TAMPs offer different services, different levels.
So, I'm a marketing guy, so that's the first place my mind goes as I'm thinking advisors can utilize this as a marketing opportunity to show added value and added expertise, which is fantastic. But beyond my perspective, how does this benefit an individual advisor's business?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it is a huge time saver. I mean, and time is money, right? That's the old adage. I mean, the reality is every minute that you spend doing something for your business, doing something for compliance, doing something for research, doing something for due diligence, in this case, the OCIO service or capability, that's time that you're not meeting with clients, and clients pay your bills. You're taking care of them, and for that, you're receiving a reward, which is obviously the fee. So the more time that you can spend helping more clients, and there are a lot of them that need it, with all the things going on crazy in our world, well, the even more benefit that becomes to save you time. Likewise, that ongoing partnership is there as essentially an extension of your back office, because they're bringing you a lot of expertise that even if you try and go out and start learning, you're just not going to have it. It takes decades and hundreds. You start going through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of managers, you get a pretty good feel for what's out there in the marketplace. And to understand those things beyond a performance filter, again, it goes back to the expertise, the extension of back office, and the time saving. It all comes together to be a huge benefit to your office, especially if you're a 1 or 2 person shop. Right? You just don't have that luxury to throw a project at somebody to say, hey, go figure out what to use out of these 400.
Right. Well, and I mean, that's something that just keeps resurfacing is this idea that the platforms are awesome because you have so many investment options, but it's overwhelming that you have so many investment options. That where do you start?
Well, absolutely. And in fact, I'm going to go into an extra little story here because this is something that came up again today on a call that I had. And it was very, very similar to one that I used in a podcast a couple weeks ago. But that just goes to point out this is recurring. The advisor had done a lot of research. They were actually doing a good job in trying to determine what managers, what strategists and models within this suddenly now, hundreds if not thousands are available to them when before they had virtually none. And okay, they find a few. Well, that means they'll use them 33. Or if they found 4 of them that they think are good because of all the performance filters and so forth, they'll be 25 in their allocation.
Just an even split.
Absolutely. Right. It's human nature. It's like you feel like you've made it to the finish line, but the reality is the goalpost is actually on the other end of the end zone. So
right.
The field goal, when you kick
there's another 10 yards.
When you kick the field goal, it doesn't
Yeah.
need to land in the end zone. It has to go through the uprights, and that's a little bit farther away. So from that note, right, you have to understand that as we were discussing a particular combination of things, I said, look, 20% of this, 45% of that, and 35% of this, that's the sweet spot for these 3. Right, and I even as a bonus, I gave them an extra manager name and a very specific model to say, look, if you prefer ETF over mutual fund, maybe here's a swap, and I actually like it better. But look, either one would work just fine in that particular scenario. But that's the kind of thing, a 25, 45, 35. Who has time as an advisor to figure that out, or the tools? Oftentimes, the proposal systems may not really help you enough to know that. So that even money split 50-50, it's not bad, but it could probably be optimized considerably better if you know what you're looking for.
Well, and I think that kind of ties into a theme that has been talked about on this podcast, which is as an advisor, you don't also have the time to be a social media specialist, and on and on and on. But included in that, you also don't have time to be a full-time research analyst. Like, there are other components to your business. You can't do all of these things all the time and be a successful advisor.
Yeah, you wear enough hats, you just end up top heavy.
I can't be a full-time social media specialist, a full-time IT support technology person, and a full-time research analyst. Like that's more than one person.
And answer all the phones.
Is going to accomplish well.
And answer all the phones and accomplish.
And build relationships and
get set up for the webinar or the client event. So.
Let me ask you this then from another perspective, which is, I'm an advisor. I see the value in this from a research and an execution standpoint. I see the marketing potential behind it, but I've never done this before. How do I communicate to my existing book that I'm going to be working with an OCIO without it sounding like, well, I was flying by the seat of my pants before, but now I brought in an expert, so it's going to be better. What's the right way to have that conversation?
Well, in my opinion, the right way is typically, most advisors I don't think are having that conversation. One great way to look at the OCIO function is it's much like buying not a prescription. It's not a drug. It's like buying a subscription to Morningstar, or Investors Business Daily, or Y charts, right? Some other research tool. In this case, the research tool has 2 ears, 2 eyes, a nose, and half a brain, right? To be able to extend your back office, right? And that's really what it's about, is that extension of your back office. So, if you brought in a person who had that experience, would you necessarily, you might introduce them, but it's not going to be a big deal that there's this person who's doing nothing but research. So, that OCIO capability is really about just making the advisor look even smarter. I don't think there's a big need, certainly not from a compliance standpoint. There's no need to explain that you're using this outside service. And, now granted, there may be some advisors that want to do something like that, and that's perfectly fine. Right? They can talk about that service and why it's valuable and so forth, but they don't have to. So that's the easiest answer, right? They don't have to.
Yeah, they don't have to. And I think it also comes down to, again, being the marketing and messaging guy. It's how it's presented. It's not so much that you are bringing in a chief investment person who is above you, the advisor.
Right.
It is, I'm bringing in another layer of support that is bolstering our ongoing research and analytics to make sure that we are continually doing the best job on the investment front. That is something that I think would be well embraced. Yeah,
Christopher, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? And OCIO is really another level of support to the advisor. It is not, it's a building block. It is not somebody who is smarter than the advisor, over the advisor, tells the advisor what to do. The advisor has the ultimate decision in determining whether or not they're going to follow the path of, hey, here's the suggestion, this is what I should do. But the fact they're already outsourcing to third-party strategists this is just a huge value add to that. And that's the purpose.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, anything else of note to share on the OCIO front?
No, I think that, other than the best advice is to simply, most advisors use, one major multi-strategist TAMP, if they're using one, all right, if they are outsourcing. And so ask questions, right? Use your main contact and say, I would like some help understanding what strategist might be best for me to use. Is there an OCIO functionality or capability within this system, somebody that I can talk to? And if there is, that's where you start asking questions about, well, what services do they provide? So that you can start doing comparison to maybe if you are using a couple different ones, well, okay, maybe one has a better setup than the other. And what's it cost? All right. That's always what you end up with, right? What do they do and what's it cost?
No, and that brings it all together for me, because I was initially thought the concept made perfect sense, but then when I really thought about it, I was like, okay, and what does this actually look like? So I appreciate you taking the time to sort of kind of spell that out and kind of walk us through the relationship, the positioning, the value add. I think that's great. So with that, what recommendations do you have for this week?
Well, those that know me know I'm a car guy, tried and true. Now, it's killing me not to have a sports car right now. However, a movie called Rush. I just watched. It's a few years old. Ron Howard directed it. It's about James Hunt and Niki Lauda and the mano a mano Formula One back and forth they did in the 1975 and 76 Formula One championship. Great movie. If you're a car person or a race person, it's probably a pretty cool movie. I liked it. I definitely liked it because I totally dig car racing. I wish I could still do it. So
I have heard great things about the film, but I haven't seen it. I'll have to put that on my perpetual locked indoor lifestyle. Viewing
well, there you go. So I watched it on Amazon Prime because with Prime I get Cinemax, and it was listed as a Cinemax movie. So there you can get it several places, but that's my path of choice for last night.
Very cool. So my recommendation has to do with current events here in California. I'll put a couple pictures up here on the screen. So this first picture is a typical evening sunset off of my back deck. I overlook a golf course. I can see to the mountains. I watch the sunset, over the mountain range through the trees every night. It's beautiful. I haven't seen that for a month. This second picture is what it has looked like every day. That's not fog, that's smoke. It's been rough out here in the Bay Area. I will say that with all of the fires. And so my recommendation is the Molekule air purifier. They make a couple of different models. I have 3 of them now. I have the large one for the main living area here, and then I have the smaller one in each of our bedrooms. And they're definitely on the pricier side, but more than worth it. The difference has been incredible. We went from coughing every morning when we would wake up and sounding like I was losing my voice all the time to just great clean air that you can control them from your phone and monitor their productivity and set fan speeds, and it's just absolutely been a bright spot in a time where there are few of those, and I could not speak better of them. So big fan of the Molekule.
No, that's great stuff. I know we have obviously a number of clients out in the California area and in the Bay Area, and it has definitely been a struggle bus. I know. So hopefully things will get better soon, and you won't have to worry about the purifiers anymore. But you'll be prepared.
I'm ready at this point. I've
got the RV ready for the zombie apocalypse. I've got
I saw that
I've got
tweet.
Lithium and solar and generator and the whole 9 yards, man. I am stoked.
Well, I made that recommendation, and we are in the middle of a 2-day reprieve. I can see the mountains for the first time in literally almost a month. So I'm going to try and get a hike in tonight before it all comes back this weekend, and make the most of it.
All right. Well, good deal. Good luck with the walk, and thanks for asking the questions about OCIO.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you back next week.
Ciao.